Blessing, so excited to kick off the great day. Going to turn it over to you to get our conference started. Take it away, my love.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Blessing Adesiyan. I'm the founder and CEO of Mother Honestly. It is a wonderful day for us to kick off the Level Up Summit in partnership with Indeed. It has been a rough couple of weeks. I think everyone will agree with me that we are facing some unprecedented challenges as women, as mothers, as career professionals, as employers. It has been a very wild couple 3-4 weeks for women, for families. When we look at what's happening with the childcare crisis, where 41%, where we are experiencing 40% increase in childcare costs, we are experiencing unprecedented amount of challenges with gun control and gun safety in America. We are also seeing reports of inflation and just the high cost of goods and services. These are the things that continue to affect women. These issues continue to affect families, continue to affect how we show up at home and in the workplace. And today we have some amazing lineup of panels, thought leaders, innovators, experts that we have brought together to really talk about the challenges that we are facing and how do we not only solve those challenges, but also level up in our career, level up in our business, level up at home and in the workplace. So today we'll talk about gender equality at home. We'll talk about gender equality in workplace. We'll talk about the challenges of childcare and what that means for us as women. We will also talk about the millions of women who have left the workforce, many of them yet to return. We will also provide resources, toolkits, information on how you can continue to support yourself, support your career, support your well-being, as well as support your family. It is my honor to welcome you to our Level Up Summit with Indeed. One thing I want to share is just how the day will flow. We have expo booths where you can go and learn more about our sponsors, particularly Indeed, and so many other sponsors that have been a part of Mother Honestly, some of them even from the very beginning. We also have networking available at some point today. So this is an opportunity for you to meet other women who are also going through similar life stages and similar challenges with you. If you have any questions, any comments, drop them in the comment section to your right. This is supposed to be a day where you bring all of your challenges, your unique situations to our amazing thought leaders and panelists that will be joining us today. With that said, I want to kick off with our keynote conversation with LaFawn. LaFawn is an amazing person. I was fortunate to chat with her ahead of this event. So please welcome LaFawn Davis. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am so thrilled and so excited to introduce you to our opening keynote speaker, LaFawn Davis, Senior Vice President, ESG at Indeed. Welcome, LaFawn. How are you?
I am wonderful. Blessing. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. LaFawn, I'm going to just go right in because we only have 20 minutes. And this is the opening keynote. This is where we level up with Indeed. We know the gender gap that pervades so much of work life also is shaping the US labor pool's recent rebound. Only this time, it's women who are driving most of the gains. In other words, in order to make a successful comeback to the labor force or even to the office, women will need to be supported in a unique way with the right strategy that successfully keeps women engaged in the workplace. So how can women prepare for a labor force that does not look like the same one we left behind? And even more importantly, how can we make sure that we are positioned to not only make a comeback? And that is what this keynote is really about. It's how do we make sure that the 5.8 million women that were forced out of the workforce where we now have 1.1 million American women still missing. And a lot of them are missing because of the demands of their home. A lot of them are missing because they want a better quality of life for themselves. So, LaFawn, as a leader in the workplace, at the number one job site in the world, how are women positioned for this current state of work? And are we simply coming back to how things were before, or have things changed for the better?
Oh my goodness. Well, Blessing, nothing is the same at all. Nothing is the same. The pandemic impacted everything from our way of life to the way that we work. And it's really a job seekers market right now. And employers have a chance to take what we've learned and construct a better standard for all employees, especially working mothers. Today's job seekers look for the complete package. So they're not just looking for fair pay or their hours. They're really looking at competitive compensation plans, flexibility, inclusive cultures that foster belonging, a sense of purpose and satisfaction. There's so much more now to looking for a job where you can truly be happy. And so at Indeed, we have a work happiness survey that measures holistic happiness in the workplace. It's designed to help people understand, how people feel at work and why. Working mothers can also search on Indeed.com for parent friendly in the what search bar and filter results of jobs for jobs that have family benefits like paid leave, dependent care, all of those things. And we're committed to making the workplace better for women. So we have a campaign called Better Work for Women. And you can get there by going to Indeed.com/better work together. And that provides resources for job seekers to overcome the unique barriers that women face.
Oh, I love that so much. I mean, talk about resources, right? Resources, tools, and support, especially for women, for working mothers. And it's one of the biggest reasons why we were excited to work with Indeed and partner with Indeed on bringing women, especially mothers, back to the workforce. So, LaFawn, as you know, we cannot talk about women coming back into the workforce or even leveling up at all without talking about the biggest barriers, which to me is childcare. It's flexibility. Work needs women, right? That was an Indeed campaign. But women need childcare and women need flexibility to get the work done. And I know Indeed takes flexibility seriously. So can you share how workplaces like Indeed are creating better work options for women? And how are leaders such as yourself thinking about childcare provisions as a tool to attract and retain women in the post-pandemic workforce?
Yeah, I love this question. And actually, I would have a hard time answering it without acknowledging what is happening in the US around us. It's all the lines are blurred, and it's really hard to say work is work and home is home when there are horrific things happening in our country that are impacting women, that are impacting mothers, right? From abortion rights all the way through the mass shootings that have been happening, where, just 2 weeks ago, there was the mass shootings of parents and grandparents in a grocery store. And then to have almost 20 children also killed in a school, it kind of is running the gamut of how much we can hold while trying to focus on raising our families, while trying to focus on going to work and being a good employee as well. And so all of that actually is important to acknowledge and understand that we're bringing that to work too. We no longer can lock those things in a closet and just keep going as is. So I wanted to make sure that I acknowledge that, because that has to do with trying to figure out how to best support employees. So at Indeed, we have what's called Healing Hour, and we have a trauma expert who sits down with the parents and caregivers group that we have. So we have an inclusion resource group. Some companies may say employee resource groups or business resource groups. But we wanted to make sure that we're taking care of our parents and caregivers. So we have a healing hour where we talk about how we feel and how it's affecting us, and how we're bringing those things to work. I think an inclusive workplace recognizes the distinct needs of working women and of caregivers. And we have to acknowledge the shortage of childcare providers due to daycare shutting down during the pandemic. There's been high employee turnover in these businesses. And so companies can really step up to provide access to affordable quality childcare. Indeed offers childcare options through Bright Horizons and Sitter City. We also focus on listening to employees' needs through various channels to meet Indeedians where they are. That's what we call our employees, Indeedians. We utilize surveys, Q&A sessions with company leadership like me, direct feedback through our inclusion resource groups, like I mentioned, parents and caregivers. We also have women at Indeed. And honestly, all of the different groups that are affected. We can't really talk about being a parent or caregiver in the workspace without talking about intersectionality. So as you mentioned, I am a parent. I'm also a Black woman. I'm also queer. And all of those things actually contribute to how I show up in the space and how I'm trying to juggle everything. So we listen to our employees. One of the things our parents and caregivers inclusion resource group did is they advocated for a change in the sales and client success return to office days. So originally we were going to do Tuesdays and Wednesdays. But what they raised is that employees have trouble accessing childcares on those days. Hi. Oh, a little.
Speaking of childcare, so
I get so distracted when kids join. I love it. Hi. So what we found is that when employees had a hard time accessing childcare on those specific days, it's because most daycare providers provide on Mondays, Wednesdays, or Fridays, or Tuesdays and Thursdays. So the whole function made a change to when they were asking people to go into the office based on that. We're also helping women and parents understand what parental benefits truly look like at the company. So we've added a parent and caregiver topic pages to our top 10,000 employers on Indeed. So examples are Amazon, Target, Starbucks. These pages include questions about parental benefits, work-life balance, and overall support for parents and caregivers. The responses come directly from parents at these companies, and they help answer questions that women don't often feel entitled to ask in the interviews, but it makes a big difference in their success and longevity within a particular role or for a specific company.
oh, I love that. And yeah, I was literally nodding through all of that because we have a lot of Indeedians in the Mother Honestly community, and a lot of what you shared is exactly what they've shared with us in terms of how Indeed is supporting not just women but also caregivers, also men, and we know that 8 out of 10 employees is a caregiver, and so it's even more important for a company such as Indeed to provide a lot of these resources that makes employee comfortable. And we've seen, especially now that it is an employee market, and if companies are serious about retaining talent, then they need to meet that employee where they are. So thank you so much for sharing that. Companies like Indeed are bringing people back to the workforce, whether it's remote or hybrid. And I think there are a few things that personally here at Mother Honestly, as a partner, we find very exciting. I remember when we connected with the team about Indeed, we said, what are your parental leave policies? What are your flexibility policies? How do you support women? How do you support mothers? How do you support parents, caregivers? And we were very excited about that. But one of the things that a lot of the mom in our community are thinking about is returning into the office, and this idea of easing back to work. As women spend time preparing themselves and their teams to come back to the office, whether it's for a day, a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, whatever that is, what advice do you have for a successful transition back?
I think the first piece of advice that I have is self-care. We cannot pour from an empty cup. And because we're juggling everything with family, ourselves, our teams at work, you really have to take self-care seriously. It could be simple. It could be just spending some time by yourself. It could be doing the things that bring you joy, right? It could be honestly taking care of yourself and your finances, or getting your hair done, whatever it is that is self-care to you. I think that's absolutely number one. As I've told some of my team members, there's nothing more important at work. There's nothing more important than your health and your heart, right? Whatever is happening at work is not more important than that. So self-care is key. I think utilizing a flexible work schedule when you can to go back into the workplace is really important. Like you said, whether it's one day a week, if it's a couple days a week, but just making sure that you understand what kind of flexibility exists within your workplace. I think it's also communicating with teams and letting them know about your situation. Oftentimes we're embarrassed. We don't want people to think that we can't handle it all. And so we don't tell our teams what we're struggling with. We don't tell our teams how they can actually help make things easier for us. And I think building trust and having psychological safety and communicating with your team is really important. If there are times where I need to work early in the morning, I need a break in the afternoon to help my kids, and then I'll be back on at night. Whatever it is, communication, I think, is really key. Then my advice for employers are to lead with empathy. We're all holding a lot, including leaders, right? So leading with empathy and understanding is important. Flexibility, again, is the top benefit that most job seekers are looking for right now. And that can be coupled with a few things. So the ability to work remotely, ability to manage life and work as you see fit, ability to attend a meeting or interview virtually, or like you have your kid on your lap if you need to. Seeing work-life integration, because I don't believe in work-life balance. There's no 50-50. To have work-life integration be modeled by senior leadership is also really key for employers to do.
I love that. And one thing you said stuck with me, which is just parenting out loud, right? Making sure that, and that can only happen when there's psychological safety, like you've said. And a shameless plug, because we did have a podcast that we recorded with Sherry Wayne from Indeed. And we talked about psychological safety and what does that look like in the workplace. And I think it's so important, because until we have psychological safety, then it's hard for a parent, a mom, to speak up and say, I need to go pick up my daughter, or I need to go pick up my son from daycare. I remember when I was in the workplace, I've worked for 5 different Fortune 100 companies, and I for all 5 of them, I snuck out to pick up my child because I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel psychologically safe to share that I needed to go pick up my child from school. So that's something that I think I'm just very truly proud that this is being modeled at Indeed and in the workplace. So New York will force employers to disclose minimum and maximum salary or hourly wages on job descriptions and advertisements. And there was a survey that was released. It's in partnership with Luminary and Indeed, which Luminary is a wonderful partner of ours as well. And this survey confirms that salary is in the midst of an upheaval. 60% of women cite compensation as one of their greatest source of dissatisfaction. That's 3 out of 5 or 6 out of 10. And 41% of women don't advocate for themselves. There's a reason why women are laying low. Women who fight for their value and self-worth can be considered pushy, aggressive, even hard to work with. So this survey found that 3/4 of respondents believe women who self-advocate are perceived more negatively than men who do. So we are in 2022. Should we still be unclear about salaries?
I'm sorry. I'm like, yes, that's true. All of that is true. Self-advocacy is so important. Blessing. It's necessary. And there are things that I think women are called like aggressive, bossy, that men are not called with the same attributes. And that is an absolute bias there for that, especially a maternal bias when you have children. So I think it is important. And one of the ways that we can advocate for ourselves is definitely on our salary and our compensation to get what we deserve. And at Indeed, we have salary transparency. So you can go on a tool and look at a salary range for any given role, the role that you have or any role that you might want to have. We also encourage salary transparency on Indeed postings because we believe you should just say what the pay is. And if someone doesn't want that pay or wants to negotiate that pay, they should be able to advocate for themselves. I think transparency is key. And there's a growing demand for companies to provide greater transparency about compensation, along with benefit offerings, as well as flexible work parameters within their job postings. When a candidate doesn't have to worry about whether the role requirements and the comp and benefits will fit their lifestyle, that frees up mental space to focus on being a fit for the role and not just the company. As the largest source of data on work well-being, Indeed makes it easier for women to find employers who care about women through our work happiness score, our company reviews, and our partnership with Glassdoor. So greater transparency is key to helping working parents make good decisions about their next role. And I think in order to combat bias, we have to tell ourselves a different narrative. So instead of going into a situation like they're probably going to think I'm aggressive, they probably are going to think that I'm being bossy, they're probably going to think I have sharp elbows, you have every right to advocate for yourself, and you should. And any company that doesn't see that as a positive is not a company you want to work for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. So one last question before you go. I know you have a busy schedule ahead of you. There is so much we can do about making the workplace better. And one is a good and inclusive reentry approach for women. And this is my biggest. I love this question so much and this topic so much because we know that a lot of women leave the workforce due to childcare purposes, whether it's to raise a child or they just need to take a pause to take care of a family member. So options may include coaching for new mothers returning to the office or even a returnship program. How is Indeed supporting similar programs, whether it's for Indeedians or for partners? How are we approaching mothers that are returning into the workforce?
So I love this too. So at Indeed, on our diversity, inclusion, and belonging team, we have a focus on ships. So ships are internships, apprenticeships, returnships, partnerships, relationships, all the ships. Now, when it comes to returning to work, returnships, for those who haven't heard of them, are when someone just has a large gap in their resume when they haven't been in the workforce for a while for lots of reasons. They could have been caring for their family. They could have been going back to school. They could have been ill. It could be a lot of different reasons. But they just kind of need a little top up on some of the current trends in education that's happening in the space that they're in. So we are working through what those shifts look like. There is return to work coaching through Maven globally. That's what we have at Indeed. We also have kind of the Bright Horizon support with helping to secure care for people who are looking to come back to work. And we're doing a full market review and benchmark analysis for both short and long-term disability plans for the US for next year. These are some of the things. These are some of the things. These are some of the things. These are some of the things, some of the barriers in the way for women coming back into the workforce. We also have something called Milk Stork, and that is breast milk delivery service for business travel, both within the US and internationally. And what they do is provide refrigerated or frozen overnight shipping of your milk to your baby back home at no cost to you. And I think that that is pretty instrumental for a mother thinking of turning back to work that is still breastfeeding. And then there's also just mental health and counseling support through our employee assistance program. And, when we're looking at this issue, we're not just saying, what kind of skills do we need to give women to come back to work? It's also, how best can we support these working mothers to come back into the workforce? That's why all the benefits and things are really important when thinking about helping support. The demand for flexibility is here to stay. And so unsurprisingly, we've also seen our own employees, kind of our top searches is that flexibility, remote, flexible, part-time work. We have something called 80% work for 80% pay. We have, if you need to take time off, all of those things. And also having an open PTO policy, I think is pretty key for women coming back to work. When I tell people that Indeed has open PTO, it's like, what? But it's important. It's important that you can take the time that you need to either take a vacation, to do some self-care, to take care of your family, whatever it is. The open PTO, I think, is really instrumental in that.
I love that. I love that. I wish there was open PTO when I was in the workforce. But I will take whatever I can get right now. And thank you so much, LaFawn, for taking the time to sit with us this morning to talk about the future of women, how women rise at home and in the workplace. I think it's so important, especially for a lot of our moms that are seeking solutions, seeking resources and support in approaching their lives at home and in the workplace. Thank you for coming, and see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.